Ti hei wā mauri ora ki te whai ao ki te ao marama. Tua ni raro ngā timataranga kōrero me wehana ki te atua mō na mana ki tanga uhia mai rā ki runga i a tātou. Ko hui tahi nei runga te kaupapa o e nei rā. Krore ki tōne ngua tapu i ngā wā katoa. E whakahonere tia ki runga tō tātou kingi a noho mai ai runga te trōna tapu i waihotia mai o na mātua na tūpuna. Kia tauturana ngā mana ki tanga ki runga i a tai atu te whare kā huiarike. Hoi anō rai mihi aroha tēnei ki a rātu katoa ko whetu rangitia. Ki te pare nui i roto o pōneke e mihi kauaki ana ki o rātou whānau e poroporo aki ki ngā mate. No reira ngā mate haere koutou a whakaoti atu rā koutou ki a rātou maha. Hoi anō rai mihi kauaki ana ki mana whenua nā rātou te whakatau i a tātou i nanahira, nā rātou e tuku atu nei i te karake e tūwhirangia nei tēnei kaupapa mō tātou, tēnei kāmihi, tēnei kāmihi. Hoi anō rā ka huri taku kanohi ki a koutou e noho ake nei tēnei te mihi, tēnei te mihi. Tēnei te mihi ngā mātāwaka i ngā karangatanga maha ko huitahi nei runga te kaupapa ko tahi. Tēnei te mihi, tēnei te mihi. Hoi anō rā nei rā mātou, mana ki rangatahi ko huitahi nei, ko tatu mai nei mātou i runga te atamira, ki te tuku atu rā i ngā kōrero, i ngā taonga, hoi anō rā tēnei te inu atu nei ki ngā mātua ki ngā tūpuna. Kia tau mai rā te wairu o rātou ki wainuri a mātou hei arataki ngia nei a mātou, i runga te huarahi tika mō tātou. Nō reira tēnei te mihi, tēnei te mihi, tēnei te mihi. Ka ri tiro e nei mihi, tai toko hia nei ngā kai kōrero mai nanahi, tai rawa mai ki tēnei wā. Nō reira tēnei te mihi, huri no, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Am I on now? There we are. We're just seeing if everybody was awake. Hope everyone's had some wonderful kai, ko brooke tuku ingoa. Thank you, Morehu, for that wonderful mihi. It's my pleasure to be convening this panel discussion on youth homelessness and Rangatahi homelessness. And you might wonder, why are we here? Why are we having this panel discussion? And just very quickly, recently, an emergency housing review by MSD showed that 18% of all whānau who are in emergency housing right now are under the age of 25. They are rangatahi. They are between the ages of 16 and 25. 18%. That review said that it was unacceptable for that level of rangatahi to be living without supports in emergency accommodation. You're going to hear about that today. 70% of all 4,048 whānau in emergency housing in 2021 had some instance with care and protection as rangatahi. In other words, the housing instability that they faced as rangatahi was a causal factor in them arriving in emergency housing. And I will put to you, before I hand over to my esteemed colleagues, that youth homelessness is actually an adult homelessness crisis. That the adults that we see that are trapped and continually ravaged by the effects of homelessness had their first experiences of homelessness as young people. And you're going to hear about that today. Now, instead of doing introductions of the whole panel, I'm going to introduce them one at a time. And it's my great pleasure as we begin the panel to introduce to you Bianca Johansson, who is the Chief Executive of Manaaki Rangatahi. Manaaki Rangatahi is New Zealand's only youth homelessness collective, and it exists to prevent and end youth homelessness in Aotearoa. And Bianca, just to begin with, I want to start by asking you, can you tell us about what Manaaki Rangatahi is? Because a lot of the audience won't even know, and they would have heard Marama Davidson speaking about the collective. The journey so far and why Manaaki Rangatahi matters for rangatahi experiencing homelessness. Thanks, B.
Kia ora koutou, ko Bianca Johansson tōku ingoa no Te Rarawa me Ngāti Korena iwi. Mauri ora kia koutou, everyone. I'm very, very proud to be up here on stage with all these beautiful po and members of the Manaaki Rangatahi Collective, both in the taumata and in our steering group, and just welcome you in to have a korero with us as part of Manaaki Rangatahi today. In terms of Manaaki Rangatahi, we are, as Brooke said, the only youth housing and homelessness collective in Aotearoa. We started out at LifeWise as the youth housing collective back in around 2017 by my amazing predecessor, who is Victoria Hearn. And in 2019, the wonderful Jacqueline Paul over here renamed us to Manaaki Rangatahi. We were actually named after the kaupapa at Te Puia Marae, the Manaaki Tangata program, and we feel very, very honoured to have that ingoa. Our kaupapa really is in our name, to Manaaki Rangatahi and to Manaaki each other. This is no ordinary collective. We're actually amazing, well, they're all amazing people that work in youth services and youth housing that have come together because they have a passion to prevent and end youth homelessness. That's why we get up every morning, we get out of bed every morning, because we believe in an Aotearoa where there'll be no youth homelessness. Hands up here, who wants that? Yes, all right, join us. Manaaki Rangatahi, we were just really exhausted with having a lone voice. So we're using the power of collective impact to come together to actually make a difference. So we try and work with systems change and work at that government, ministry, systems level to pull those levers to try and make a difference, to try and make a change. Because back in 2017 and right up to now, hardly anyone is talking about youth homelessness. If you've noticed at the conference, there's been very, very little so far. So we're really thankful to Cha for inviting us to come and speak and just shine a bit of an awareness on the mahi that we're doing here. So within Manaaki Rangatahi, we've been very, very fortunate that through hustle, lots and lots of hustle, and just being really determined in terms of our kaupapa, we've been able to make some really key differences out there for the rangatahi that we work alongside of. And some of that has been a change to the Homelessness Action Plan. If you remember when it came out in 2020, there was very little inclusion of rangatahi. And now there is much more than just a paragraph about rangatahi. There's funding towards youth housing. There's more youth housing being developed. We're also really proud to walk alongside of many housing providers here and within our collective that are in the audience. Ngā mihi to all our collective in the audience. That we've been able to help support opening up the first ever kaupapa Māori transitional youth housing. And that is Mahira Mahi and Mātuhuruhuru. And we're about to open up the first Pacifica youth housing ever in Aotearoa, and that is with the wonderful Bill Peace. So mihi to Bill and all of the whānau and the hustle that they've been doing as well. We were also able to advocate for the first ever senior advisor position within MSD. That is a youth homelessness position. We've been working alongside of the Human Rights and Children's Commissioner around the right to housing for our rangatahi, and we're very, very proud of that mahi as well. Those are just a few of the things that we've been doing. Everybody wanted me to talk a lot more about all the things that we've achieved. There's been quite a lot, because what's not right about preventing and ending youth homelessness in Aotearoa. So that's all from me. I'm going to let my beautiful fellow panellists here have a korero about the amazing mahi that they're doing. But whānau, I just wanted to say we're running a workshop after this. Please come along to our workshop, because there you can ask us lots of questions. If you'd like to join Manaaki Rangatahi, if you would like to be a youth housing provider. What we actually do in this collective is we actually all share mātauranga and IP. We don't come in with egos. We don't come in as CEs of our organisations. We come into this kaupapa for ending youth homelessness, and we leave all of that at the door. So if you want to be a part of that, come along. That's how we've been able to open up more youth housing. So, just let's do this. We'll do anything that it takes, so come and have a korero. Ngā mihi.
Thank you, B. Inspirational. I want to join. Wait a minute. I am a part of Manaaki Rangatahi already. Amazing. Now, next to Bianca, we have Kiri Manu here from QES, and QES is actually a youth education provider. And so it's quite interesting, Kiri Manu, that you're sitting on a stage at a national housing conference. And I just wondered if you can paint a picture for the audience here of your work as a youth service provider, how your work intersects with youth homelessness, and the pressure points your team faces every week.
Kia ora, Brooke. Whakalawhalei atu. Kia ora ana, tēnei te mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa. Ko Waio, ko Ngāti Maniapoto, Ngāti Mahuta, nā te kahuki whāngaroa, ngā puhi nui tonu me kuki aireni ahau. Kirimangu from the beautiful South Auckland, born and raised, Manurewa, hard, and have been able to serve my community through the mahi that we do. Really good question about QES being an education provider. Our kaupapa was really based around educating our rangatahi that failed to be educated in kura mainstream education through our youth guarantee contract. And what we were exposed to that none of us are disillusioned to in our community was whānau breakdown, what they would call behavioural issues, but really was just generational trauma that was surfacing in the education space. And of course, couch surfing, which was kind of what we called youth homelessness a couple of years ago. And so in that, we recognised that, yes, we knew about it, but they were coming through our doors, and we had a real sense to respond to that. And so that was when we threw the kitchen sink, essentially, at the MSD Youth Services contract. We acquired it, and we were able to service rangatahi that fit between a criteria in terms of homelessness. That was really awesome. But what happened after that is that we identified that rangatahi homelessness is simply an issue with our rangatahi falling through the bureaucratic systems that totally don't serve them. And we saw that in the last lockdown. And we made a statement in our ngākau and in our team collective that no one in that lockdown that came to QES was going to be lost to homelessness. We were going to respond to it even if they didn't fit the criteria. We didn't know how we were going to do it, and yes, we worked like some days 24/7, but we were going to do it. And what we found was that there were 5 rangatahi in that last lockdown that fell through the cracks, and one of them specifically came through the cohort of Manaaki Rangatahi. So, Mahira runs Te Whare Marama, which is a rangatahi development program, and in there was a young transgender wahine Māori that was placed into emergency housing. She had been clean off meth for 3 months. She had been on the healing journey with Mā Te Huruhuru, but the place that she was put into emergency housing, because she was homeless, had crack addicts, had people that were being released out of prison, had adults. She was transgender, so she had to share a bathroom. She was held at gunpoint at this particular place. And, you know, we knew it was only a matter of time before this young girl was going to relapse. And so we had to respond. It took me 3 days of knocking on everyone's door that would listen. I was probably a massive hoha in that time. But 3 days is far too long. And I think Mahira opted to housing this young person under her desk on mattresses, because that's what we do as Māori, we just respond and make it happen. And we saw that at Te Puya Marae. But from there, I worked with Aaron from LifeWise. He's not there anymore, but he was there. And we read this 2-page letter alongside Bianca. The Manaaki Rangatahi Collective does that, helps you build your mana and your mauri so you can fight the system that doesn't serve your people. So we read this 2-page letter, and Mel Harrington, National Youth Services Manager, I was like, you need to do something about this. Rangatahi are falling through the cracks. How can you be okay with this? This is our people. We must respond. And they were like, oh, how are we going to, we can't do this because the tender, da-da-da-da. So anyway, I managed to get a short contract, and in that we captured the data. Foundation North and MHUD then got an application from myself and the team, and we said we want to respond to this. We want to provide coordinated access to tamaki ki te tonga, because we're from Southside. We know Southside, we know our community, and we know how to respond. MHUD said no, because it wasn't a new thing, but Foundation North did. And so in the last 12 months, one person has been able to support 80 rangatahi that have fallen through the cracks, out of homelessness into safe emergency housing. I want to leave you with this, like, emergency housing isn't safe. Like our rangatahi, you know, sometimes we think, oh yeah, it's cool because we got a house over their head now, but they hate being in there. Like, I'm serving young mama with 3 kids in a studio apartment, and the other week she said to me, yeah, my kids are real hoha sometimes, but I just go into the bathroom and just go in there and just chill out for a bit. And like, this is what we are doing as Aotearoa in terms of supporting our young people. They're our taonga, they're our future of tomorrow, and it's just crazy to me that we don't talk about this, and that we've got all of these smart people. Like, the last 24 hours has been like super amazing, and you guys are so smart, yet we're not collectively figuring out how we can solve this issue. And so I just want to implore you all, like, come to our workshop. Yeah, we're not going to show you any like big presentations. We're just going to try and solve this problem together as a collective. Kia ora.
Thank you, Kiri Manu, and painting such a vivid picture. And just to take us into the thick of the crisis, in the day-to-day, we have Kendra Horning here from Vision West, who's the housing specialist in our youth services team and also leads our My Whare project. Now, the other mics have run out of batteries, so I have to pass the mic to her.
Kia ora. My name's Kendra, as Brooke mentioned, and I've had to think really long and hard about what I want to use my time up here to say to you all, because this is a privilege, but also I'm here on behalf of so many homeless rangatahi, and I just can't, I struggle to put into words what is actually happening in the thick of things right now. So I've come to the conclusion I'm just going to be raw, honest, and quite vulnerable with you all today, so that, you know, we get a clear image of what's going on and how bad this crisis is in our home in Aotearoa. I love my job. I am so passionate about ending and preventing youth homelessness here in Aotearoa. I'm succeeding in doing this. In my role as the My Whare program lead, we are conquering youth homelessness, one whare, one rangatahi, and one host whānau at a time. But at the same time, I wish I didn't have to have this job. I wish I could be made redundant next week because there was no need for this mahi. But reality is that I have to experience the pit in my stomach every single time a new rangatahi comes through that door, homeless, without the human right to have a place to call home tonight, a place that is safe and secure where they can just relax and breathe in what is going on around them. They just don't have that. The pit of knowing what our options are as professionals, as specialists in this situation, or the lack of options that we have. You know, we're putting them into emergency housing for an interim solution. An interim solution that I've got 6 rangatahi living in right now, knowing that I can't see the end of this interim solution for any of them because I've got nowhere for them to go, because all of our other youth housing programs and options are completely full. They have no vacancies because I have already filled them all up. I know that there's no vacancies because of me and because the need is so great. It's unbelievable. It's honestly unbelievable. This same interim solution, one of our rangatahi is spending her 26th weekend right now. That's 182 days of experiencing things, people, substances, sexual exploitation, things that she never thought she'd ever have to witness in her life, all witnessed by the age of 17. Because we as a nation have put her into this vulnerable situation to give her a place to call home for the interim solution. There's no vacancies in these incredible programs that we've worked so hard to create because the need is growing. And look, I'm not a public speaker and I'm about to have a meltdown, but I just want to say that sometimes, actually a lot of the time, I feel like I'm setting these young people up to being exposed to things they are so vulnerable of following. We as a nation, we as Aotearoa are setting them up to fail, sink or swim. This is your reality for now. And when I say for now, I don't know when the end will come for you. We all just want to fit in, and as young people especially. You know, we are working with a young person that's just escaped a religious cult. Cult is her word. 17 years living in a religious cult. Her first experience of our country, of Aotearoa outside of her community, is a hotel with all of these explicit things happening. And I don't know about you guys, but this is why I can't sleep at night, because this is the representation we as a nation are putting her into in terms of this is the reality and this is the real world outside of your community. And I'm sorry, but this is what we've got for you. And you know, she may end up back in that community that she really, really hopes not to return to. So this is not Aotearoa. This is not Aotearoa as I've ever known it in my life, and I'm privileged to say that. But we can be the change and we can make sure that that is the situation for every generation to come. And we will be the change, but we need all of your mahi behind this. We need us to stop talking about all the things we're going to do. We need to get curious. We need to ask questions about how we can help our rangatahi. If you are in a position to get housing for these young people, but you're scared and you're unsure of all the red tape and things that come with it, we are living this and we are busting down this red tape. Come and have a kōrero to Manaaki Rangatahi. Come and have a kōrero to Kendra Horning from Vision West, who is running the Mai Whare program, who is looking for host homes to house a one-bedroom relocatable unit to give these young people a fresh start and a place to call home with support right on their doorstep, but the option to be as independent as they want to be in their whare, in their safe place to call home. Kia ora.
Thank you, Kendra. And just following on from that, we have heard some of these harrowing stories of rangatahi. You've heard Kirimanu, you've heard Kendra. What are the solutions? And, it's been a great privilege of Manaaki Rangatahi and the work that we've done to stand alongside Mahera Maihi and her work at Māta Huruhuru. And we're just going to have her share her journey of what kaupapa Māori youth transitional housing looks like, and have that Matariki star just appear in this auditorium for us. Thanks, Mahera.
Tēnā koutou whānau. I'm really feeling Kendra's vibe right now, because as she's talking, she's like banging the seat, and I'm like, oh yeah, get it, girl. Kia ora whānau. Firstly, mihi to the mana whenua o tēnei rohe. Mihi ati kia koutou. To you, Morehu, thank you very much, our wonderful kaumātua, for flying all the way from Mangere to Ōtautahi to open us up in our panel discussion. Thank you very much. And to Manaaki Rangatahi, it's an honour to be able to sit on the stage with you and share our kaupapa. Ko waio, ko mahera maihi tōku ingoa, he uri tēnei no ngāpuhi. Should I hide under the seat now? No. And Ngāti Whātua, I'm very honoured to be the founder and CEO of Māta Huruhuru. What I've learnt, or what I come here to talk about today, is that it takes a village to raise a child. And Māta Huruhuru is creating a village. And our village not only includes our tupuna, and on this note, I'd really like to pay homage to all of our ancestors, all of our tupuna who paved the way for us, who laid down their lives, who protested, who died, who fought for a better future for us. And so now we're at a stage where we're sitting at these tables, having these conversations with ministers, changing systems, changing the way that we do things, because we ride on the shoulders of great giants. And so I just want to mihi to our village who have gone before us. And I also want to mihi to our village here right now, who is Manaaki Rangatahi, and also to Cha and all of the other housing providers who are here, because it's a collective response. You know, the good divide and conquer was what took us out, but it's going to be kotahitanga that's going to bring us together, and then we need to make sure that we move together and walk together in the future to make sure that these solutions for our young people are sustainable and are meaningful and are life generational changing transformation. So I'm very proud to be the first, and I'm actually going to say this, first kaupapa Māori youth transitional housing project ever in the history of Aotearoa. It's not been an easy journey to get here because no one has done this before. Yes, there are youth who are currently in transitional housing, emergency housing, but that's not customised for youth. That's not customised for Māori youth. So we had to create what that looked like and fight fights that no one's ever seen before, and we couldn't have done it alone. And without Manaaki Rangatahi, without Kirimangu firstly introducing me to Manaaki Rangatahi and then meeting the formidable Bianca and Brooke, without all of that, we would be not here right now. And yes, it's taken us 2 years to get here, but actually it's taken us 180 years. You know, and so a bit about our Māti Huruhuru story. I was born a child in care. I was born into women's refuges and into rehabs because my parents, they just didn't have the education to raise us the way that we, I don't know. Actually, it was normal. I've got brothers and sisters and cousins, and we've all kind of got a story. Everyone's got a story. But I remember my dad saying to me, you know, at 9 years old, Bub, I can't get out of this. I can't, but you can. And when he said I couldn't get out of this, I know what he meant. You know, it was like that mentality. He can't get out of the gangs, but you can. And so, and all you have to do is get educated, because education is the key to freedom. Go get educated and come back. And when you come back for your siblings, come back for, you know, for your children. So I went and I got educated. I went to work for Oranga Tamariki. If you're in the house today, you know, aroha mai, but I worked for them, and I was like, oh, I'm going to smash down all these barriers, you know, to what they're doing to our people. But over about 6 years, I realized, man, that's so hard. It's so hard to do it that way. So I took, you know, my lived experience, my education, and then working for government, and then I was like, man, I can do this. And so I put it all together, and then I created Māti Huruhuru, and we opened our doors to the very first housing kaupapa on the 20th of March just this year. Yes. There's been many barriers for us, though, because when we first traversed this space, the ministries, and you're probably in this room right now, didn't have a plan, you know. And so on one hand, they're telling me, you got to get your social sector accreditation. That's MSD. And then MHAD's telling me, you got to get, before you can get a contract. And then the other one's telling me, you can't get a contract until you get your MSD accreditation. So there was already these bureaucratic systems that were failing us because no one actually knew, you know, what to do. But, you know, thanks to MHAD and Mihaka Panapa and all of, actually Marama Davidson was a huge person who advocated fearlessly for us. MHAD said, oh, Mahira, we got to get you over the line, because if we don't, Marama's going to be right on our backs. And I was like, oh, yeah, you best believe I'm going to tell her about this after we leave. So you better, put an extra 0 at the end of that contract. Thank you very much. And inside of our kaupapa, it's Māori, you know. Before you even come into our referral process, we put you through a wānanga. And wānanga is so beautiful because you are able to learn about the young person, and you're able to break down barriers that if you just moved them in, you would never know. and that's the power of being Māori. And we also learn in the wānanga the model of a marae and what it represents, that it's the whare tangata, it's a woman. And so you respect your woman, and it's got arms and it's got a beating heart and everything that's inside of the marae we teach. And I can see people shuffling around, so I must be coming to the end of my korero. But I could talk all day about this. But the function of a marae, and then how you treat your marae is how you treat the pā when you come to he pā piringa. And because of the wānanga, because of the marae concepts, because of te whare tapa whā, we've had a huge success rate already in the transformation. And I cannot recommend it enough. If you are going to look at housing, try the wānanga method. It is powerful and it will change their lives, because connection is the answer to addictions, right? Reconnecting. So the child has changed our lives. And so not only does it take a child to raise a village, not only does it take a village to raise the child, it also takes that one child to change all of our lives, to transform our lives, to change our village. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, Mahira. And just to bring us to a close, I'm just going to ask in a moment for Jackie Paul to just pull together and weave together some of the reflections and where we're headed from here. But just by way of introduction to Jackie, I just have this image in my mind of being at Te Puia Marae for the Waitangi Tribunal inquiry into youth homelessness, and Jackie from a one-bedroom flat across the world at 11:15 p.m. at night, zooming in and just on a roll for Rangatahi Māori, for tangata whenua, and for our people. And this wahine, we call her the true boss of Manaaki Rangatahi. There's both of us, so let's give it to the boss.
Tēnā koe e hoa. Tēnā tātou, ko ai au, ko Jacqueline tōku ingoa, a huri tēnei no Ngāti Kanunu Kere Taunga, Ngāti Tūwhare Tō me Ngā Puhi hoki. Engari, e noho ana au ki Cambridge, Massachusetts. Kia ora, thank you so much for allowing me to be in this space with you all. Firstly, I just want to recognise the aroha that you all have for our rangatahi and that fire that burns within us together to work on this kaupapa. This shit is hard. It's hard work. And just sitting here, reflecting and thinking about the journey we have been on for the past 6 years or so together, and our growing whānau to address this issue, it's been a lot of work. It's been great to think about, the positive changes we've been able to have, particularly at a systemic level and policy. And so that's why we heard Andrew on first name basis as well. Might not be the greatest person in the housing system, but it's important that we foster a lot of those relationships so we've been able to grow and work together. I also just want to mihi to you all in sharing those powerful stories together. This is the reality of our rangatahi, and even more so for rangatahi Māori. Many will know a lot of the work that we do, specifically trying to address a lot of these structural issues, specifically for Māori, and the moving threads that we weave together as well. And, the mamae that we carry together and the hurt and being able to share those struggles, but also work together. It's hard work and it's enduring, so lots of things to think about, and I just really want to highlight a lot of the intersectionalities that we've spoken about, transgender, whānau, LGBT, disabilities, Pacific. It's not just one blanket. We have to think about the nuances and the way in which we respond to addressing this issue. So lots of complexities, a lot more mahi to do, and I just want to quickly speak to the tribunal mahi. I mean, it's great, but I shouldn't be having to do it in the first place, really. I mean, I'm still in my 20s, I could be doing other things, but we we have a role and responsibility to ensure that our tamariki and rangatahi have the access to the services that we do as young Māoris. So, you know, it is a huge honour to work alongside those who are doing the real mahi. And the more, you know, there's a lot more work for us to do. And so I just want to highlight, because we haven't really spoken about the Kainga Kore report that was released by the Waitangi Tribunal, and it's kind of been brushed over, but I want to highlight some of the treaty breaches specifically in that report. So I will save you all from reading the 200 report and we'll bullet point it. So, and this is specifically to rangatahi homelessness. So the tribunal found that the Crown breached the principle of active protection in response to rangatahi homelessness. This is huge for us. Now we're able to leverage and hold them account to ensure that they will address this, not only in terms of policy, but as well as the funding stuff. So it's taken, the tribunal essentially recognised that it's taken little direct action to support this cohort at all. The Crown also breached the principle of good government through its failure to obtain adequate data on rangatahi. Many in this room will know what that means and what that looks like, and the importance of that data. The report regarding the government's failure to safeguard and assist rangatahi experiencing homelessness underscores the urgency for change. The government needs to take proactive measures, prioritise accurate data collection, and further collaborate with communities to address this critical issue. These are the key points that have emerged out of that report, and so it's great to hear the ministers pointing to it. Now we need urgent action to address this issue. So just in closing, I just want to recognise all these incremental changes around transitional housing. It's great, but it is a delay in homelessness. We are still setting up our rangatahi to fail, but together, it's important that we don't stay in that mindset of deficit. Let's dream. Let's think big. Let's stay hopeful and aspire to ensure that every rangatahi and tamariki are supported by their whānau and live in cultural abundance. Tēnā tātou.
Thank you very much. So that brings our panel to a close, but I just want to do one more shout out. There is going to be a workshop directly after this that you can all join Manaaki Rangatahi. So I'm going to have a clipboard with me. I'll be alongside B. Come to the Avon room and we will love to korero with you more. Thank you very much again.